Hello and welcome to our flip video lesson, Writing It Down, lesson 3.08. So our 3.08 details are Human Odyssey reading pages. We actually don't have any reading pages that specifically go along with this lesson. So as long as you're caught up with where you need to be, you don't need to do any additional reading today. Your student guide workbook pages 63 to 65. You do have an OMS assessment. It's 3.08. And then the topic is Sumerian writing. So what are we learning about today? Unit 3 lesson objectives. We're going to describe the development of the Sumerian system of writing. We're going to describe the role of scribes in Sumerian society, identify the earliest known system of writing, and then list examples of advantages of having a writing system. So we're on our second page of learning objectives for this unit. Introduction. Writing it down. Writing is so much a part of our lives that most of us take it for granted. But it was actually very difficult for people to produce a system of written communication. In fact, it took the Sumerians centuries to develop one. And remember, centuries is 100 years, or century is 100 years. So it took hundreds of years to develop a writing system. The system they developed, called cuneiform, was so complex that very few people could read and write it. Literacy in Sumer, therefore, was confined to just one social class, a special group known as scribes. Sumerian writing. The Sumerians developed the first form of writing. As Sumerian towns grew into cities, the people needed a way to keep track of business transactions, ownership rights, and government records. Around 3300 BC, the Sumerians began to use picture symbols marked into clay tablets to keep their records. Writing example of Sumerian cuneiform, Sumerian writing by unknown symbols, were made with wedge-shaped marks on clay tablets. Clay tablet writing was inscribed on clay tablets. Scribes would take a stylus, which is a stick made from a reed, and press the lines and symbols into soft, moist clay. Once they were done, they would let the clay harden, and they had a permanent record. Cuneiform was the initial writing of the Sumerians and utilized simple pictures or pictograms. For example, a drawing of a person's head meant the word head. Over time, however, the writing of the Sumerians further developed to include sounds and meanings. Scribes would use the stylus to make wedge-shaped marks in the clay. This type of writing called cuneiform writing, which means wedge-shaped. And I did not get that information from your book or from the OMS. I did get that from a website called Ducksters, which if you have time, I would definitely check it out. There is so much information on the Ducksters website, and it's very just basic, put in really simple terms. So if you're struggling with something such as Sumerian writing, you can always go to that website and click on it. Really, they cover most topics that we cover in this history course this year. And the link is right here. So if you go to your OMS and you look in the file labeled flip video for this lesson, you'll be able to click on that link directly. Student guide questions. So now you're going to turn to page 65 in your student guide. Okay, so you should always have that with you and ready to go during our flip video lessons. So you're going to match the challenges with the solutions to show how the Sumerians developed a system of writing. So I'm going to go through these on the next few slides, and you can try to match these up as I'm reading the slides. There probably won't be enough time to complete all of them, but if you need to pause the video, you are always welcome to do that. So they needed something to write with. So what do you think they came up with? And you can draw the line. Let me go back here one slide. You can see here they needed something to write with, so I drew the line over to they invented pens made of sharpened reeds. Okay, so you can do that as I'm writing through these. I'm not going to give you the solution. I'm just going to read the challenges that they had. So the next one, schooling was expensive because it took years for someone to learn to write. They needed to keep track of numbers and amounts. People who kept records had to know the system very well. They needed to translate spoken words into written words, and they needed something to write on. People who couldn't write needed to sign documents. They needed to record other kinds of information besides numbers. Recorders were the only people who learned to write, and therefore they had to write about everything. They discovered that pictures and objects sometimes have more meaning than one meaning, or had more than one meaning. The writing system was complicated and difficult to learn. And so now is when you can take time to go back to page 65 if you were kind of looking at these slides and didn't flip to that, and finish your answer choices. So go back and look at each of these pictures. You can pause the video, you can go back, you can look at the the PDF on your OMS to look at these slides and really try and figure out what the solution was to each of these problems that I just read. So you can pause the video now to do that. And then hopefully you were able to check your answers and you had most of them correct. If you need to, you can pause the video again just to double check to see that you have the answers correct, the challenges, and the solutions. And we will also be discussing this in class. So again, there are no reading pages for today's lesson. Important vocabulary words to understand. This will be for your assessment. You'll see some of these words on your assessment. Complicated means consisting of many interconnecting parts or elements. Another word for complicated is intricate. And so that Sumerian system of writing was very complicated. Orderly means organized, neatly and methodically arranged. So they needed to have records done in an orderly fashion, which is another good thing about cuneiform. Cuneiform was the earliest known system of writing. Advantages, a condition or circumstance that puts one in a favorable or superior position. And so that word you'll need to know on your assessment. There's something in there about advantages of early writing systems. And here we come to our quote section. A word, oops, I have a typo there. It should be a word after a word. After a word is power. And that was said by Margaret Atwood. Thanks for joining me today. As always, stay positive, stay fighting, stay brave, stay ambitious, stay focused, and stay strong. Have a great day.